Over the course of my life, I haven't met too many people that don't struggle with body image issues of some sort or challenges with their body and connecting that with their self-worth. I know for myself, it's been a struggle for me, like, since I can remember. And I know for a lot of my friends, mainly female friends, but I do find that it's common in males as well. I think it's just a universal thing that many of us have struggled with because we have these bodies that are ever changing. I mean, form in general is ever changing. And with all of the conditioning and all of the society standards and what is considered beautiful in one area of the world versus what's considered beautiful in another area of the world, or wherever you live versus what's on social media, what's in the schools, what's trending at the moment. If your body, your face, your being in form isn't considered beautiful to society standards, then you're gonna feel the lack of that, and it can contribute to self-worth, which I know for me, and probably you watching this as well, has been something that comes up every now and then, if not chronically. Hi, my name is Julia. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm really excited to be making a video on this today because this is actually something, like I said, struggled with my whole life, and I feel like I have found a lot of peace within this area and realm, like the body image issues and how I feel about the way I look. I have made so much peace here, and it still comes up for me like every now and then, and it actually has been coming up for me more so in the past few weeks than it has in a pretty decent amount of time. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't care about how I look or that the way I look doesn't matter, because it probably matters to me even more so than maybe the general public, because I record myself literally on a daily basis. Like, I'm always staring at my face, I'm always staring at my body, and because of that, it's actually made me more accepting of the way I look in certain ways, and in other ways it just brings it up so much so that I actually have to deal with this regularly, and if I don't deal with it in a healthy way, then it can cause me to completely self-destruct, self-sabotage, and not do the work I want to do, not create the things I want to create. So for me, it's a double-edged sword, but because I have so much experience with this, I feel like, why not talk about it and see if I can share anything that could be helpful for you in some type of way. Okay, so I wrote down a list of things that I wanted to talk about in this topic, and I realized there's so much here, like it's so vast that maybe just one video won't be enough for it, so maybe we'll make more in the future, but I kind of want to start off with like the very beginning. I think when we're really young, we're so impressionable, and the way our family members feel about their bodies, their faces, their form, even if it's not something that they're talking about or sharing with you, it's still encoded in your DNA. So if any of your family members ever had an unhealthy relationship with their body, with food, with the way they look, their appearance, it will most likely come up within you. And that is with most things actually in our DNA. So it's sort of our job to heal through these things so that we don't continue to pass them down to generation to generation. And at the same time, when you're a young, impressionable child and you start to realize, oh, I have a body, I am in a form, and you start to become self-conscious and self-aware, well, I guess self-conscious would be maybe the more insecure side, but you start to become self-aware of the body, then sometimes self-consciousness will come up with that. And I know for myself, that really did start to come up at a very young age. I remember having a haircut that was like, you know, shoulder length and these bangs that I just really hated. And I remember hating my hair and like the way it was like curly and wavy, and how I thought straight hair was so beautiful, and like how I wanted my hair to be straight. And that was something that came up for me really young, like I want to say like 4 years old. I also remember I always had sort of sensory, texture, tightness, like sensitivities when it came to clothing and shoes and socks and undergarments, and I would always want to wear flowy dresses. And so as a child, there were adults in my life that were like, no, you need to wear pants, you need to do this. It was one of my teachers, I remember. And I also remember being a baby, being a literal baby, and not wanting to wear my jacket, but my parents didn't want me to be cold, so they had to put me in the jacket, but I was just so uncomfortable in the jacket. And still to this day, I find discomfort in wearing jackets. I feel super constricted and claustrophobic in them. So these are just things that like came up early on, which as I got a little older, maybe like 4, 5, 6 years old, I started to look at the other kids and compare my bodies to them. I always had like a little tummy, like I was always like a small petite kid, but I had had like a little tummy, and so I would look at other kids who didn't and I would be so jealous of them. Like I wanted to be skinny so badly, and maybe I didn't even really have that much of a tummy and it was just like all in my head. I can't even really remember at this point. I'd have to look at childhood photos. But that feeling and that insecurity about having a tummy has continued way into my adulthood, even to this day. But even yesterday I was feeling insecure about being bloated, which is just a natural thing that happens sometimes when we are eating foods that don't sit right with us, or you know, whatever food combining or whatever time of the month it is if you're a woman. Like all these things come up. So I say all this to say that like these things, whether we address them or don't address them, we're going to have to continue to face throughout our journey with the form, with the body. It's just a part of life. And I know there's a certain point where I'm gonna have to accept aging. Like I'm gonna have to accept the wrinkles, the gray hairs, the gravity's force on my entire body. And so even now I feel like I'm at the most acceptance I've ever had for my form, and I feel the prettiest I've ever felt, you know, with society standards and just how I view myself. I also know that it's not gonna last. Like this is great right now, and I also know that I won't look this young forever if I am blessed to live that long. I don't know if anyone really makes it into their 90s without a single wrinkle, you know what I mean? So I think it's just accepting the fact that these forms, these bodies are going to evolve and change over time, and they are not gonna fit that perfect 20-year-old trendy model of the decade or the time that, you know, she or he exist in. It's always going to be evolving and changing, and that can be scary to accept if we're in the mindset of lack and the mindset of thinking that we aren't unique and beautiful as we are. But on the flip side, it can also be really nice to think about that and accept it, because none of us can escape this. We are all going to eventually age. We may deal with illnesses, we may deal with sagging skin, we may deal with whatever comes up. Who really knows? Scars, whatever. It's all part of being informed. Our bodies will change. The sun will cause liver spots and freckles and whatever else. The gravity will bring everything down eventually. And we don't have to hate ourselves because of that. If we can accept that this body is a part of us, it's not all of us, and it's gonna change for better or for worse, and we'll be okay anyway. Like, just because your body does not look like, I don't know, who's a famous person that we can, Kim Kardashian's coming to mind, but whatever. Whoever you can think of, Kylie Jenner, I don't know. All these people, even those people that I just named, they've had so much work done. Like, their bodies are not their natural bodies. And I also want to get into that because I don't think there's anything wrong with changing your form. I think it's the intention behind why you change your form. So I would say for myself, I have struggled with the way I feel about my face and the way I feel about my physical body. And I see them, they're one, but I see them as two different challenges that I have tried to overcome. With my face, I have gotten fillers, I have gotten plastic surgery. With my body, I've never actually gotten anything done from the neck down, but I have dealt with eating disorders, I have done fitness and workout journeys, and we could say I've altered my body in natural, unnatural ways, because I don't think an eating disorder is inherently natural, although it didn't involve like a knife or a lipo or any of that. But I don't think restricting my food to the point where I'm starving and only thinking about food all day and not living my life in a way that I want to is ever healthy. And I've also changed my body in healthier ways by making sure I'm getting enough food and doing healthy workouts on a consistent basis to maintain the form that I prefer to have my body at. So when it comes to my face, I feel like I've made a lot of peace at this point with how it looks right now. There isn't too much that I want to do differently. Like, maybe there's some things I want to touch up and change here and there, but I know that's not gonna make me feel more whole and complete. And I know that with the rest of my body as well. And I also know that like the changes that I have made, some of them have really made it easier for me to accept myself. I wish I could be that person to sit here and say, hey, I've never done anything different to my body, I just learned to accept it. it. Like I never made any plastic surgery changes. I always was at the same weight, and I just learned to accept the weight that I am at, which is a healthy weight, blah, blah, blah. But that was not my journey. My journey involves me changing the external, and it also involves me accepting the internal and external. So I actually feel like I am a good person to talk about this with, but I also don't know the answer. So everything I'm telling you right now, everything I'm sharing with you is just my experience. There's a book by this plastic surgeon called Psycho-Cybernetics, and in the book he basically explains how a lot of his patients, he would do the surgery that they wanted, complete a perfect surgery, and yet they would still be unhappy, either with their results or they would find something else to fixate on. And I feel like I am a product of that, because when it came to my face, ever since I was 12 years old, did not like my nose. I liked my nose as a baby. My nose that I have now, honestly, looks exactly like my childhood baby nose, almost to a T. When I look at baby pictures of me, I'm like, oh my God, my nose that I have after surgery. I had a nose job back in 2020. And ever since, I look at my new nose and I'm like, this just looks like the original baby nose that I had. And so I feel like that surgery actually aged me backwards in a certain way, which I was happy about. I'm not gonna lie, like I was happy about that. And I also never was able to accept my previous nose. The thing about my previous nose is honestly, like it didn't look that different. If you were to look at a video of me, this video right now, and go back to 2016 and look at a video, I don't look that different. And yet I feel so different about my face. Like I'm more willing to just take a video at any angle, smile, snap a pic, and be like, post it, I don't care. But back in the day, I'd be like, how's my nose look? Does my nose look too big? Do you see the bump? Do you see the this, that? So I think changing my nose gave me more freedom in how I felt about being recorded, because I didn't really think about it. If I'm just talking to someone in person, I really wasn't thinking about my nose that much. But when it came to making content and videos and seeing my face, I really would feel that insecurity about my nose. And I think before I got my nose job, anytime I did something to my face, like whether it was lip filler or chin filler, it was mainly to overcompensate for the nose that I really didn't like that I had. So I overfilled my lips, and looking back, like I see the pictures of my overfilled lips that were completely botched, and I'm like, why did I do that? But it was because I was trying to overcompensate for the fact that I didn't like my nose, and the trend at the time was the Kylie Jenner lip filling trends. So I did it. Do I still have lip filler? Yes, I do. But now it's a lot more toned down and I like it. And you know, part of me does want to kind of like redo it because it has migrated a little bit and whatever, but it's not as crazy and migrated as it was the first time around when I was just looking like a fish. But I ended up getting it dissolved and redone, and that's how I ended up where I am now. And I haven't had my lips done in almost 5 years, so whatever is left is whatever is left. Same with my chin. The first time I got chin filler, I want to say my chin looked like a foot. I got botched. I wasn't going to the right doctor. The second time is what I still have now. I got it done a few times. I haven't had it done in 5 years as well. And whatever's in here is whatever's in here, and I'm happy with it. I'm good. Would I still like my face as much as I do now if I didn't do anything physical to have changed it? Probably not. I probably still wouldn't be accepting of my nose. And I hate to say that, but that's just where I'm at right now, because I'll look at old photos of me and I'm like, yeah, I'm really glad I got the nose job. And it's not that I look at those photos and I think, oh, she's not pretty enough or this or that. It's like, I don't know what it is, but there is something. I think I still need to figure it out, but because I changed my nose, I don't feel the need to figure it out anymore. But I think it's connected to something deeper. So even if it's not coming up through me disliking my nose, it probably comes up through me disliking other parts of my body. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if you change one thing and you're really happy with the results, other things will come up in the form that you maybe don't accept, that are going to teach you and force you to have to learn how to accept yourself if you want to be present and be happy. Going back to the plastic surgery thing, a lot of people who get plastic surgery tend to get more and more and more because they're never satisfied. And then you see these people walking around looking really, you know, overdone. And really it's just a product of insecurity at the end of the day. I won't say that is true for everyone, but I'd say that is true for most people who get like addicted to plastic surgery. And also on the flip side, I don't think there's anything wrong with changing or playing playing with your form. It's really the intention behind it. Let's say you went and got a plastic surgery with the intention of, I don't know, I guess decoration. I think that's a lot different than getting a surgery because you hate your nose. You want your nose to be different. To be honest with you though, I don't know anyone who has gotten plastic surgery who didn't do it to change an insecurity, which I also don't think necessarily has to be a bad thing or wrong. It's just how we look at it. I know when it comes to makeup, I feel like we could put makeup on to cover up and hide ourselves, or we could put makeup on to like decorate our faces. And I think the intentions are very different with those, and that makes sense to me. Like, I don't feel like I need to wear makeup to feel beautiful. Like, I feel like I could walk in a room and not wear makeup, and as long as my hair is looking nice and my body's looking good, I don't really feel that insecure. But I don't think I would feel that way if I didn't do the nose job and the filler to make me feel really good about my face as it is. I don't feel insecure about my acne too much, except sometimes I do. I won't lie, sometimes I do, but for the most part I don't. And I think it's really interesting to think about these things and ask ourselves why we feel the way we do about them. Like, I'm not really feeling insecure about my acne unless, say, I'm going to see a person I really like on a date or something. Then I might be like, oh man, I should probably cover up my acne. But on the flip side, when I was in my relationships, you know, I would totally rock my acne, no makeup, haven't showered in like a day, wearing an old t-shirt and sweatpants, like, this is me, who cares? You know, those situations are different. I think when you're already with the person, you know that they find you attractive without the mask on, or at least hopefully they do. And when you're trying to impress someone, you know, you're gonna put your mask on and try to look perfect. I do that way less now than I ever have, but it still comes up, and it is what it is. I would say what really helped me accept my face was last year when I committed to doing daily Snapchats. I started looking at my face and picking it apart. I was taking videos and pictures of my face more than I ever have in my life. And even though I had done everything that I'd done to make the changes that I made and whatever, I was like looking at my face being like, damn, should I get another nose job? Like, I feel like my nose doesn't look good enough. Are you kidding me? I had those thoughts for like a month, and I would look at my face and I would do the thing where I'm trying to make my nose look smaller and cuter and adjust the angles, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so time consuming. Like, why did I get this nose job if I'm not even gonna accept and like my nose? So in that moment, I had the choice point to self-sabotage and start posting less of me and making everything a big deal again and disappearing and not, you know, doing what I want to do because, oh, I don't like something on my face. Or I can accept it. I can accept it. I already did the changes that I thought I wanted, so either accept it and move on and stop judging my face and post my posts, or continue to abuse myself and be unkind to myself and put myself down as I'm doing this work to the point where I'm gonna get burnt out and not even want to do the work. So I just decided, you know what, F it, I'm gonna accept it. And it wasn't easy, but once I made that decision to do so, from there it stopped coming up for me. Like, I won't say it stopped coming up for me, but it came up for me way less, and it sort of just faded into the background. Is it still kind of there? Can I still find flaws in my face, in my nose, and whatever? For sure. But I wear less makeup than I ever have. I take more photos and videos of my face than I ever have in my life, and I feel prettier than I ever have in my life. So I feel like I definitely did some sort of self-acceptance in there, and it worked. That's not to say it's gonna last forever. I think this is a journey where I'm gonna have to continue to accept the face that I have and maybe make changes along the way if I feel they are necessary, but not from the place of, I freaking hate this face, let's change it. Maybe more from the place of, oh, I like my face how it is, you know, maybe I want to enhance something here and there sometimes. Or not, and just accept this is the face that I was God-given with some slight tweaks, and that's okay. That's mainly how I got past the face stuff, because it doesn't really keep me up at night or bother me throughout the day the way it has for most of my life. Nowadays, I feel like my struggles when it comes to appearance and form are more in my body's shape. And it's interesting because I really struggled with this as well for most of my life, dealing with an eating disorder and just not liking my body's shape in general, like for whatever reason, comparing myself to whatever body is trendy at the time, whether whether it was the skinny body or the slim thick body or, you know, like hourglass shaped body. Like, it didn't really matter what it was. My body never fit the specific perfection of what the influencers were doing at the time. I feel like my body's pretty petite. I am naturally more slim and I hold more weight in my tummy area. So I tend to get bloated, or when I gain weight, it'll go to like my stomach or my boobs more than like thighs and butt. Maybe that's not true. It does go to my butt as well. But either way, I feel like when I gain weight, I look just kind of round. It used to go to my face a lot in the past, but I don't think I've gained enough weight in the recent years to see much difference in my face. Actually, no. When I lose a lot of weight, my face looks really slim. But I don't think that's necessarily like a positive thing. I don't really look to slim down my face. Although when I was in my late teens, early 20s, my face was very round. I don't think that was actually weight though. I think it was more like inflammation, because I was so small and so skinny at that time in my life. I was 95 pounds maybe, because I had an eating disorder, and my face was still really round. And maybe some of it was just having a baby face, but I remember that, and I would always be a little insecure about how round my face was. And so as I got older, things evened out, things moved around. I'm glad my face was that way when I was younger, because I like how my face is now. And maybe if my face wasn't so round when I was younger, at this point maybe it would be really like skeletal like. Whatever, the details of it don't matter. The place that I am at currently is a lot of acceptance of my body, and I still have things that trigger me. So recently I started working on taking deep belly breaths and doing mindful breathing throughout the day, which means I am not holding my breath anymore, sucking my stomach in, which is something I conditioned myself to do so I would look thinner. I would look like I don't have a tummy. But when I'm wearing tight clothes like leggings, I was walking around New York yesterday. Me and my friends went to yoga, and I was wearing these tight leggings and I felt bloated, and I'm like holding my breath, holding my stomach in, feeling so uncomfortable, basically abusing myself just to look what I think is presentable to everyone around me who walks by me. I don't think that's healthy. And there's still a part of me that's like not wanting to let go of it, because I don't want to be seen as not enough. And for some reason I still connect my body not being perfectly, you know, flat stomach, perfectly hourglass, to not being enough. I don't know why. And I haven't figured out really how to accept this yet. I mean, it's so recently prevalent in my mind. Even wearing this little t-shirt dress, you know, I can kind of see like my tummy a little in the silhouette, and I don't love that. And yet that is what it is right now. I don't want to start restricting food and doing the eating disorder stuff, because I know that doesn't work. That just makes me feel worse. And I don't want to continue to hold my stomach in and hold my breath while walking around in the world, because that also isn't good for me. It isn't healthy. It causes anxiety. It causes my body not to get the full breath. My brain doesn't get the full air. Our brains need oxygen. It's a function. The only solution I've come up with that I do as much as I can is wear clothes that aren't so form-fitting to the point where I'm like, everyone can see that I'm super bloated right now. I'll wear maybe like less tight clothes. And that works sometimes, but there's also times where I do want to wear more form-fitted tight clothing. So I think it's just accepting that tummies bloat, and I sometimes hold more fat in my stomach than elsewhere, or water weight in my stomach than elsewhere, or maybe it's that time of the month. I don't know. I haven't figured out the solution yet. I know that even if my stomach was perfectly flat, I'd find something else to fixate on my body. It could be my unsymmetrical ears. It could be my pretty thick trap muscles that I want to get Botox to change. It could be my booty being too small. It could be anything. I could find whatever I want to fixate on and bash myself for, right? I don't think the fix is to necessarily slim down, although if that happens due to eating healthier, that is what it is. I think the solution might just be to fixate on something more positive, focus on something else, find a way to accept my body as it is, how it is, regardless. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. Either way, it's gonna change. It's gonna sometimes be slimmer, sometimes be thicker, sometimes have a tummy, sometimes my tummy's flat. Like, it's gonna be whatever it's gonna be. And yes, I have some control over it, but the key, I think, regardless of the form, regardless of how I look, is to find a way to accept what is anyway. Because if I'm not gonna feel enough within myself, I'll find anything in my form. It doesn't necessarily have to be my body to make me feel not enough. I can find other people who reflect how much I am am not enough. I could find any external circumstance to reflect how much I feel not enough within me. So I think this is just one of those things that me and many other people use as a reflection of, well, because I am not this certain body type or this certain face, I am not enough. When in reality, we are all our own unique form, our own unique body, our own unique facial features that come from our ancestors who have survived millennia for us to exist. Why would we hate these forms that we are so blessed to have if it wasn't for us having a self-fulfilling prophecy, a belief within us of how we're not enough, and we are going to stick that on anything we can to prove that to us if we have that belief. And I want to say this, it's not your fault, it's not my fault that we have this belief that we're not enough. This has been conditioned onto us through other people who have felt like they were not enough. When you don't feel like you're enough, you unconsciously will imprint that on others. So by becoming aware of that within us, all of these little things like my nose or my tummy or the boy that didn't like me or the girls that didn't want to play with me or the money that was here and gone or the job that I got fired from or the whatever, the haters online, whatever it may be. What was I saying? I lost track. Oh my God. They will come and continue to reflect how not enough we are. But if we just accept within us that we are enough as we are, regardless of how we look, regardless of our shape and size, regardless of whatever external thing is or isn't happening in our life, we will feel okay. All those are going to be excuses that we can cling to prove our not enoughness until we finally realize within ourselves we were always enough all along. All of these external things never truly mattered. Yes, they were real and real experiences for us to experience, but they weren't bigger than who we truly are. And when we made them bigger than who we truly are, when we made them decide our worth, that's when we fell from grace. That's when we fell out of alignment. That's when we allowed ourselves to be brought down and become less. But they're never that deep and they're never that big. They're never what we think they actually are. They're just little reflections reflecting out the broken parts that we hold within. And the broken parts that we hold within only exist because we allow ourselves to not be enough as we are. Do you see how the cycle is perpetuating itself? It can stop with us if we choose for it to. When we no longer make any external thing, whether it's our body, whether it's our partners, our friends, our family, our jobs, any of our circumstances, when we stop making them the proof we need for us to be worthy of existing and being happy and enjoying life, then they start to fall together. We learn that we can accept the form. We learn that we can accept the circumstance, and then they start to change to be what is most in alignment with a person who feels genuinely worthy of life. But when you make these external things about form, your body, or anything in your circumstances larger than life, you give your power away. And then you don't feel so good anymore. And then you feel like you have to do the surgery, you have to do this or the that or the whatever. I say this, if you can go within yourself and see everything for what it is, and you still want to do the changes, then those changes are meant for you to do because they're coming from a place of, this is what will be most in alignment with me. But if you're doing them from that place of, I need to change this so I can feel good about myself, I say hold off on that because it's not going to make you feel good about yourself. Maybe it will for a little bit, like you go and you get your nose done like me and you're like, I like my nose. A month later, you know, I don't really like my tummy. Even if you feel good about it for a little bit, it won't last. So if you can make the changes within before you make the changes without, you might realize you don't actually need to make the changes without, or you might realize that the changes that you want to make externally are in alignment now, and you can do it from a more synchronistic place, a more authentic place, a more healthy place. So I'm gonna leave it here. I know this was a really long video and I was a little bit all over the place, but I think we got to the point. So I'm happy with it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video next week. Bye.